Hello, Düsseldorf. Are you guys ready to burst another bubble? Are you ready to burst another bubble? You ready? Okay. There's one bubble in this world that we hardly think about, because most of us, we are simply born into this world, right? And that comes with a certain package. Wealth or poverty, political stability or war, an empowering family or despair. And then there's this extra thing, our belonging, indeed. With our first breath, we simply get declared a member to a community. We get declared to share its values. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, we are German, Syrian, or Sudanese, or something else. And we have not done anything for this in the first place, right? And at least when I look out of this bubble, I see a world that is in pretty much turmoil. And that indeed makes me wonder, what if I or we would prefer a different belonging to a different community, to a different set of values? Could we do that? And I'm not talking about emigration. If you're a holder of a German passport, you pretty much are a lucky bastard. The whole world opens their doors for you. You get a red carpet, I'm standing right here on top of it, rolled out for you. Very same planet, very same human being, different passport, aka citizenship. Half of the world closes their doors for you. So for instance, if you hold a Palau Islands passport, traveling becomes difficult. So citizenship, in its traditional concept, mainly allows us access into territories. And I wondered, who came up with this? When did it first emerge? And it happened 2,500 years ago. 500 years before Christ. Do we agree that the world has changed a little bit over this 2,500 years? I think it has. And I think it's time to look at this concept with a bit more skepticism. Especially because within these 2,500 years, many things have happened. But I want to highlight two moments. The first one being only 500 years ago. And it actually happened in Germany. Mr. Gutenberg invented the printing press. And all of a sudden, societies that so far were heavily imprinted by religious beliefs of power could spread knowledge to very ordinary people. Everyone could learn to read and write, and it gave us enlightenment. It gave us the Renaissance. The second moment is right now. Because ever since 2002, roughly, I consider us all living in a new era again. Maybe even a new Renaissance. I call it the digital modern era, where we find ourselves running our daily lives by rules that are entirely different than the ones even our own parents used to live by. Think about the way we work, we play, or we live together. Is there still a fixed workplace for you guys? A fixed work time? In the United States alone, every second relationship is based on an online date already. So we can see that we can redesign pretty much everything. And yet, we're finding ourselves in a situation that looks like this. We are growing as a species, we are inventing incredible technology, and we have all the means to redesign our world in a way that helps us to live in good harmony and peace with each other. And yet, we run our society and especially economy on an operating system that to me looks pretty much outdated. We exploit the planet to an extent that is unfathomable, and geologists, meteorologists, biologists, they call the time of the Earth right now Anthropocene. Because humans as a species have become the one dominating species on this planet. Everything depends on us now. Especially whether that Anthropocene will last a little longer than what the scientists predict, another 50 years. That is 50. And the most people in this room today, hopefully, will see that time as a happy life. But consider this for a moment, as most serious as you can. We've made it to this point. We are growing almost to 10 billion now, and we are fucking it all up. Can't be true, right? A lot of people that I meet, they feel this. They have a notion. Psychologists call it a cognitive dissonance. They can see all these interesting, fancy, new possibilities, and at the same time they feel, there's something not right here. And it didn't take a young Swedish 16-year-old student to put the finger in the wound. I think many of us knew already. Strategists call this state of mind VUCA. And they pitch that we all live in a VUCA normality now. And it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Sounds abstract, right? But think about what happens to you when you open your eyes in the morning to the news. Will the United Kingdom break off the European Union or won't it? Will the American president stay with his allies or will he simply abandon them with a tweet? Is your job going to be handed over to AI in 5 years from now or not? And what about that moment at night in bed when you try to read the internet empty? I guess no one of you guys is doing it. Well, I certainly have done that. Is that helpful or is it making us drug addicts? And I think it is. As we speak, there are 20 companies, tech companies in the world that pretty much have a good idea of what the new operating system for our societies and economy should actually look like. And you know them all. It's indeed the Facebooks and Amazons and Googles of this world. And they're basically doing two things. The first one is they put us on drugs, literally speaking, on our own hormones. Because every time we click, it releases some pleasing hormones in our brains. And it's a nice little escape from this busy day, right? Something that has to do with myself. And at the same time, they sell our attention to each other, to the advertising industry, but most interestingly, back to ourselves. They make us want things we never knew we wanted. They make us believe things that we never believed we could even take as a reality. And while they do that, they cash in amounts of profit that no company in the world has ever had before. Just to give you an example of how far we've gone. There are 2 companies running more than 90% of the messenger systems in the entire world now. And that is Facebook and WeChat. 90% coverage of the entire world. And here you see a map with a provocative thesis on it. Because my bet is that in a little while, in a short time from now, maybe 5, maybe 10 years, the 200 independent nation states that we have so far gotten to know will fade away. And they're going to be replaced by 7 digital super regimes that we can see emerge right now. Especially 2 are already heavily fighting what I'd call a cyber war, and that is the US and the Chinese. They are arresting people. They are prohibiting each other from selling their stuff in their very territories. We've got a German ambassador or an American ambassador to Germany in Berlin who threatens the German government to use Chinese products. And in that American super regime, we find roughly 1 billion people, because you can add Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and others. On the other side, you've got China with almost 2, and 5 others who are lagging behind a little. But there's also a Russian one, for instance, with roughly 500 million, showing its face, showing its profile already. So think about this when you read the news. And this is happening while we find ourselves in this VUCA world, irritated and tired of all these developments. Yet there is hope, because there's not only G20 or G8 meeting in fancy places like Biarritz or Hamburg, but there is also D9. And D9 is a group of governments like Uruguay, New Zealand, Canada, and Estonia, who have self-declared themselves as digital leaders, trying to find new benefits of that digital modern era for their citizens. New Zealand does it with open data, and Estonia does it with what I refer to as a Citizenship 2.0. And here bursts the bubble. Because for 4 years already, anyone in the world with an internet access can become an e-resident of Estonia. You pay $100 per year, and without having to travel to Estonia, you can set up a company within the European Union. And you get the whole package with it: data protection, capital protection, and the reputation of running a company out of Europe. Makes a huge difference. Many people do it. In Estonia, already in 6 months from now on, there will be more companies that have been founded by e-residents than by organic Estonians. So, pretty much a business-driven approach to a new idea, a new concept of citizenship. And they're not alone. It is not only governments like D9 rethinking this idea. It can be anyone, regular people, folks, friends. And if you board a plane from Düsseldorf and you go southeast to the borderline between Serbia and Croatia, you will find another one, a new micronation, only 4 years old, Liberland, it's called. They have a slightly different idea than Estonia. They want to get away from the European Union, and they want to offer their citizens minimal state intervention and taxation. But you can see there is movement. We even have a space nation now. Have you ever heard? It's called Asgardia, and they own a satellite. They have a population of 1 million people, 180,000 of them being considered residents. They held elections. They have a president, and they really mean it. But again, is business the best reason to reinvent citizenship? I doubt it. With the challenge ahead, finding a healthy and sustainable way to live together on this planet, I think we really need to grow the group of people who stand up for these values. And luckily enough, there is a think tank in the Principality of Liechtenstein. It's the 6th smallest nation on the planet, but it's already 300 years old, so they have a bit of history under their belt. And it sees a think tank that mainly is driven by young people between ages 15 and 34. And they recently came up with their very own citizenship idea, which is a social citizenship idea. Why social? Because if you sign up for this program, if you sign up to become a member of the Republic of Responsible Optimists, you commit yourself to 3 things. First, a climate-neutral life from day 1 on, no matter where you come from. You maintain your Brazilian citizenship. You maintain your French citizenship. You maintain your Australian citizenship, but you do not want to wait for your government to get things sorted out somewhere in the future, maybe 40 years from now. You want to act now. You want to make a difference now. And you know that others are there to help you. Second, the commitment to new education, to new knowledge that helps us to de-learn, for instance, about this law of eternal or even exponential growth. How do you do that? It's not easy. How do you get through VUCA? And the third one is the circular economy, where you can only run a business that doesn't know waste if you use no more resources for whatever you do than you bring back into the cycle. This happens as we speak. And in the light of all these challenges, of course, everyone asks themselves like, okay, oh my gosh, what can I do as an individual? And that's why I need to quickly introduce you to Bucky, Mr. Buckminster Fuller, who was born at the late 20th century. Because in an interview with the Playboy magazine, of all media, in 1972, he was asked the same questions, like, how can an individual make a difference? And he said, you know, societies and organizations are like big ships, right? Like the Queen Elizabeth or an AIDA cruise ship. And they are huge and slow and hard to move, but they have a rudder that sits underneath the vessel, and that rudder changes the course of the ship. Still, you need maybe 10,000 horsepower to make that movement. But hey, look, at the end of the rudder, there is something else. It's called trim tab. And it's a really small, very ugly and boring piece of wood or metal. And it takes almost no power to make that move. So the trim tab moves the rudder, and the rudder moves the ship. You can look this up, and he even has it on his tombstone. So that's what he left us with. Call me Trim Tab. And my wish towards you guys is to please reconsider what it means to be an influencer. It doesn't necessarily have to translate into selling more shoes and makeup or more glamour on Instagram, but maybe also to listen, to get inspired, and then to raise your voice about these very things, values that keep us together and that maybe help us to build a better community, to have a better citizenship. Be a Trim Tab. Thank you.